What is happening, everybody? Good to be back with you. BobbyFi here with our third BetQL RotoQL show. We're going to be talking about some of tonight's favorite bets. We're going to be talking about some great DFS plays from tonight. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. First thing is, I want to thank the people at BetQL RotoQL. I think this is a really good pairing. We're still getting the technicalities and some of the stuff worked out. They were really helpful pre-show, so we really appreciate that. And just want to make sure everybody can hear me. So if you can, go ahead and give me a little sign. Give us a like. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know what's going on. We're going to get more people, obviously, coming in the room shortly. Just right now, we obviously don't have a ton going on. I am going to talk about my DraftKings lineups, my FanDuel lineups. We are also going to mention some of our favorite plays of the night here on BetQL and RotoQL. And there's some really interesting things that stand out because I really like, I want to mention yesterday, I really had a nice little run, and I wanted to show just sort of how BetQL and RotoQL affected my thinking in relation to that. On FanDuel, I finished fourth with one entry in the Monster. It was a good shot. It was one I probably should have won. Unfortunately, the game ran a little bit late. But again, sometimes these things just happen. The games ran, it was basically Jaylen Brown got hurt with 3.5 minutes to go. Then the Celtics couldn't hang in the game, and they pull all the starters with 2 minutes left. I thought I was going to win it, but at least it wasn't a six-figure prize for first place. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that BetQL, RotoQL helped me with yesterday, and ways that you can sort of look for help. You can see I entered just one entry yesterday in the Monster, and we've got to really it's hard to win tournaments with one entry in general. But my basic overall thinking was, and it was interesting, Westbrook, for the first time all year on RotoQL, was projected at lower than Harden, and we mentioned that. Now, Harden did outscore him, but because of position eligibility, I felt like I could take a line that I really liked on DraftKings, on FanDuel, that was going to be a little bit off the board just in construction. We also really liked Kobe White on RotoQL, and Kobe White obviously did completely go off. That was great for us. I did fade Zach LaVine and this lineup. You could see how close we were. And to be honest, another 3 minutes of Westbrook, Jaylen Brown, and Hayward, of which none of the other players had that combination, would have been nice. But we talked about how we love Zion. We mentioned how on BetQL, on RotoQL, Kawhi Leonard was a better play than he was on other sites, such as other projection sites, I should say. We liked Embiid. That was more of a gut thing on my part, but that was really why I went there. And we liked Josh Richardson a little bit better by the time that he was updated as a starter. Lonnie Walker sort of could have obviously had a bigger game, but we came really close, and I was able to use the shows, as much as these things might be helpful to you guys, and that's the main goal. They're helpful for me as well. So a nice run. Sad not to get the win, but it was a nice run anyway, and BetQL, RotoQL certainly helped me out with that. Anyway, getting on to today's slate, we want to talk about some of the other things. We got some other things right and wrong yesterday too, but we don't need to go through all of it. If there's some that you guys are bitter about, go ahead, let us know. We're happy to admit, sometimes when we're wrong. Some of the ones that I didn't go with I went with the Celtics one. That unfortunately lost, but I didn't go heavy on it because I did like the Rockets too a little bit. It was a tough situation, that one, and I probably should have just laid instead of playing that one. But we've got a few things we want to highlight today. I'm going to take a quick look into the chat room because I haven't really talked to many of you guys yet. But again, please say what's up when you're in the room. Say hello and come join us. It's the first time we haven't been on my channel, so a lot of my regulars aren't here. So I would love to get to know you guys and hear what you're thinking about. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you want to hear about. Tell us what you don't. But we're going to start off with a few things that we really like tonight for this particular slate. And first of all, from a DFS perspective, I think this is a phenomenal slate. I've got a terrific history on giant slates, and this is a good example of one where we really have a lot of ways to go, but nothing that's alarming. We must play this guy on DraftKings. We have that more on FanDuel than we do on DraftKings, but the guys who I have the most of on DraftKings are not even projected to be extremely high owned. We've got a guy in this is the guys who basically we have the best value on RotoQL. James Johnson, PJ Washington, Dwayne Dedmon, all expected between 6.17 and 6.89 DraftKings points. I feel very good about PJ Washington. He's the one I feel the best about. He's the one I have the most exposure to. So he's my actual favorite play over here. I don't really have anybody all that close except for Victor Oladipo, and we'll get into him later for my own thoughts. But I really, really do like PJ Washington. You can see in my one DraftKings lineup, I've already put him in there. Let me get the screen centered a little better for you guys because it's a little bit off center for you right now. Anyway, that's sort of where we're at there. The plan is today to play one of the 1500s, a bunch of the 80s, and then about 50 of the $15. Again, I don't think you need to. I need to max enter on this slate, but I think it's a really, really good slate to get a lot of action out there. Just to mention the other guys, James Johnson at a very high ownership does worry me a little bit. I could see that game playing in ways that he gets phased out, but I do agree with the RotoQL projection, like that he does rate to be the best value as of this moment. Hopefully we get some better value coming up because I don't feel safe with him. And I feel like trying to fade him would be more the right way. Now, I have him in my current DraftKings lineup because I sort of wanted to make a point of who I was looking at. I don't think I'm necessarily going to go with this blend, but this is certainly guys who I liked for various reasons. The other part is, like, we don't have it updated yet on RotoQL, I don't believe, unless something I just missed happened. But DeAndre Ayton's going to be out tonight, and you're going to get just massive, massive chalk on FanDuel and massive, I think rightfully so, on DraftKings as well on Sheik Diallo, who's projecting to play around 30-plus minutes across the industry. If you look at he played 39 minutes in the last game against the Lakers. Now, that was a blowout, but he was also, like, without Ayton, they sort of would need him to play minutes, but maybe they wouldn't against a team in Golden State. So I think there's a little bit of volatility, but I don't think it's as much as maybe it would seem like at first glance. I think it's actually a fairly safe play. Other guys who just rate really, really well over here that maybe don't versus other sites, Taurean Prince, other sites across the industry, certainly not as popular as we have him. He should be basically a much higher priority, as would Rubio, Booker. Ibaka's one that sort of every site sort of agrees with. But the other guys, I do think those are the ones that are the biggest differences. The Rubios, Prince, and Beasley, who I really like as well, and RotoQL likes a ton. So certainly worth mentioning that. We'll get into FanDuel in a little bit, but I want to mention real quick about some of the best bets we have tonight on BetQL. The Pacers +1 versus the Bucks is a 4-star value, which is a very high value, despite the fact that the Bucks are 4-0 against the spread without Giannis this season. 64% of the public bets have gone on Milwaukee. I don't know if I certainly understand where we're coming from with this BetQL thing, but I've watched the Pacers really struggle. I think they put their best foot forward. I think this is a good game. I love it for DFS purposes. I'm all over Oladipo again. I'm okay with just him sucking so far, and I know I'm going to get it back from him eventually, so I'm not worried about it. But just from a straight betting standpoint, it's one of the best bets we like here at BetQL. It's one that I am not going to make myself, just in all honesty, just because I don't know that I can get behind betting against this Bucks team to lose a game ever. That's just where I'm at. I just don't think I can do it. You got the Jazz and the Heat. 5-star money line value. Utah should be listed as basically we have as pretty significant favorites. A game I'm a little bit afraid of and think will be a good game. I don't think I want to get heavily involved in betting on this one, but I would tend to agree that if I was, I would be with the Jazz. -195, like they should be a little bit bigger of a favorite. I agree with that. But I just say it's a little bit, it's a little dangerous, it feels like to me. Getting to one that I completely agree with, and I couldn't agree with more. The Warriors and the Suns, we have an over-under of 227.5. I think it's a clear under. 5-star value, projected 221 points in the RotoQL model, which is, again, the BetQL model. These models, by the way, are very different than other ones, and I love it. From a contrarian's point of view, for DFS, it's certainly great, but it works out terrific for a lot of these great bets as well. And I couldn't agree more that the Warriors and Suns are under. The guaranteed lock yesterday of that was, I think we had the over in the Pelicans and Portland game, and definitely hit the over in that one, so that was good. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick look at chat. Guys, please say what's up if you're in here. We could really use some new voices. Come on, say what's up. I I haven't talked to you guys in a while, so come on over. I didn't have time enough to tell all of my old people about this show because we got it set up so last minute. But from now on, this is where I'm going to be doing my show. So I would love to start the same dialogue I have with my usual crew. And once they come in, there'll be a lot of fun to hang out with you guys in the chat room as well. Anyway, another thing we've got here today is some interesting trends. The under is 18-8 in Orlando games this season. That makes a lot of sense to me from a team that's a good defensive team in Orlando. You have a very low over-under here, but I think I like the under in that one. I like that trend. I think it's a really clever trend. One of the other great things we get over here at BetQL, that's one that I definitely agree with, and I actually will put some money down that game doesn't cover the 2-0. I never thought in today's NBA I would be saying a game is not going to cover a 207 over-under, but that certainly strikes me as one that it makes some sense. And just from a DFS perspective, obviously not a game we want to target, but it's a game with a player in Christian Wood that's going to be under-owned for the first time in a while. So let's take advantage and play some Christian Wood. I think he's going to grab a bunch of boards in this game. I see a double-double, which should get him his easy 30. You added his offense to that. I think you're going to end up with Christian Wood in the 40-plus range with upside on that. So I like that quite a bit. The Nuggets are 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 home games. Ooh, the Nuggets against my Lakers. A sneaky game for DFS purposes. A very hard game to project. Both teams don't like to play too fast, but we have a fairly high total for considering the teams. They're both efficient offensively too, so we have the Lakers as a 2.5-point favorite. Now, the Nuggets, I don't know where I stand on this one. I feel like I don't trust the Lakers right now. I think I would lean, I'm a Laker fan, but I think, like we're saying, maybe it's the Nuggets 6-1 against the spread at home, last 7 games. It seems like a good trend to monitor, and the Lakers have struggled lately. Let's take advantage and maybe get some money on the Nuggets, either as a money line bet or even part of it. Like I honestly would even take the few points there. Like you could see this being like a last possession type of a game, but mostly I think I just would. And again, I'm just asking you here, please come on in, give us the like, the thumbs up. I've been planning on being here with you with you guys for a while, and I want to be able to answer questions about DFS, about straight sports bets, about whatever you guys want to talk about, because that's what we're here to do, and we're going to talk about how RotoQL and BetQL lets that happen. I'm going to take a quick look at some of the lines from what QLTV is saying in chat. These are these exact numbers on these. I didn't talk about the FanDuel ones yet. We were going to get to that when I showed my screen, but we'll get to there in a minute. And then he highlighted the other notes. So basically, what I was just saying. One other thing I want to point out that we have is, I guess we'll talk about public betting now. And I want to talk about sharp betting in the end and sort of how to take advantage of it, because the sharp bets have been pretty good lately, and just keeping track of that, which BetQL does for us is really helpful. 67% of public bets have gone on the Hawks -2 at Cleveland. I sort of would lean with that. I'm iffy, but I think I would lean that way. The next one is my favorite one of the night because I think that it applies to a lot of things in DFS, and I just don't understand this. Okay, so 67% of the bets on the Hawks at -2 at Cleveland. I would tend to agree. I would pick the Hawks to win this game outright, obviously, and I think that I would pick them to cover that minuscule spread. I don't really know what we're getting from Cleveland. I think it's a big wild card, but I do expect the game to stay close for the most part, and very, very good fantasy game, obviously. 86% of public bets have gone on the Kings at +305 at Dallas. Now, that's not actually what I thought was going to be the trend that I haven't actually checked yet, but I'm going to take a quick look at our handy public betting app, and just I want to see how much money we're getting on a specific over-under. And I'm not going to give everything away, but there is an over-under today that I just don't understand, and that's this game. I think this game smashes the over. Sacramento, Dallas at 224.5. It feels too low. It's climbed a point. I personally just am all over this, and I don't really understand how Luka's not going to be owned at 10.9. I don't know what he's going to play, and also at 9.7 on FanDuel. I'm really struggling with the Luka decision tonight, guys. I will probably realizing just about now that I should have told everyone this new YouTube channel, but I didn't have all the information yet. So I need to send all this around, which I'll do before our next show, our last show before the All-Star break tomorrow, unfortunately, but we're going to have a lot of action-packed stuff for you after the All-Star break. Anyway, getting back to it, I really do think that the Kings at Dallas, straight up to win, seems like a tough call for me. The trend certainly makes sense. I do think the spread at 8.5 feels a little extreme, and I also feel like the total is too low. So I would be betting on the Sacramento with the spread, take the points, and I would be betting the over on this game. I like it for DFS purposes as well, and I think we've got to consider Luka. That's just my initial thoughts, and I know there's more information to come about it's going to dictate how much we can get him in, with some injury potential. But as of right now, the plan is to get Luka, at least some Luka, which basically if you get 20% Luka, you're going to be 4 times the field as of what current projections are stating. So I think that you're probably in pretty good shape there. I also want to point out another thing. 98% of the bets, 98, have gone on the Bucks Pacers over. Now, that's a number that I'm sure will change at some point, but that is shocking, isn't it? I think it's just like kind of amazing. I agree with it. I like that game to go over as well. And obviously, it's a great game for DFS purposes. In fact, I think it's even climbed a point this morning. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm going to double check. I like that game to go over a lot. I think it stays competitive. I'm not going to be betting on either side, as I mentioned earlier. I just don't trust it because, the Pacers at home, without Giannis, you'd think getting a point, okay. But I think that I'm just going to lay on that. But I do think betting the over is a wise move on that Pacers-Bucks game. And look, you're getting some premium information for free from the RotoQL people. And it is really the RotoQL/BetQL. I got to figure out how to say it because I know that I keep mixing them in and out, and sometimes when I'm switching from DFS to regular sports, it's just going to happen. So sometimes I might be saying the wrong one. It's all the same company. That we're all on the same team. Same thing. Anyway, great free information like that. This is stuff that you just don't get everywhere else. And I just want to say the one sharp bet that we're giving away here today is 35% of public bets have gone on the Nets plus 3.5 at home against the Raptors, but 88% of that money. Wait, hold on. I got to reread this. 35% of the money has gone on the Nets at home against the Raptors, but 88% of that money. You know what? I got to reread that. I just miswrote my notes over there, so I'm gonna have to clean that one up a little bit because I'm trying to figure out exactly what I was noting from earlier. I was trying to get my highlights of the day here, but basically, I don't really want to bet on the Nets-Raptors game. I feel very uncomfortable on either side of it. I want to state that. I think it's a good sharp. I want to talk more about our sharp betting tools, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But as of right now, I don't think that I'm going to be betting on that game regardless of how many sharp people are. Yeah, we've got it right now, 46% sharp bet. That's, pretty high. I still don't on the Nets with the 3.5. I'm fine. I just feel like that game. It really worries me that the two of the. And it's not just us, by the way. It's not just us at BetQL. This is where the sharp money's going. They're both going against one team with a 15-game winning streak and one team that's been classically good and is winning by more points in Milwaukee than any team in the history of basketball. That's where all the sharp money's going tonight, and the sharp money knows what's up. So. Just keep that in mind. But it is interesting to be going against those guys in games that I certainly don't know if I feel comfortable doing that myself. You guys, I would love to be able to show you the screen. We're going to have better graphics and better things for you to look at in the background other than just my ugly mug and then, my lineups. But we are going to talk about my lineups. We are going to talk some DFS and how we like the slate. I want questions from you guys. I want thoughts. Please get in the chat and start asking us some questions. Let's get some QQs going. Because Dan says he sees a good amount of high-priced guards protecting as well. Does that make you like Porter a little more with small forward eligibility over Sexton and Garland? That's an excellent question. I do like Porter a little bit because of the small forward eligibility on DK, and I agree that there's so many good guards, not just expensive ones, but guards everywhere that you really, really want to get in your lineups. I mean, on FanDuel here, I'm struggling because I sort of got the Trey Garland combo. I'll get back to it on DK in a little bit, but the small forward eligibility on DK is a big deal and definitely needs to be talked about. But just real quickly, just talking about FanDuel, all these guards that are in play, we've got a ton of them. So I'm going to go through the ones that I like the best. You see them on my screen, actually, the ones I like the best. I don't know that I necessarily like Trey the most over slightly cheaper Luka and Dame. But what I do know is I think that if I'm going to play him, I would like to at least get a part of the other side because I like the Cleveland side in that game. So I would like to get Garland into a lineup at 0 ownership at 4,500. He won me a tournament earlier this year like that. I don't know that I'm going to end up sticking with this exact build. Obviously, it's long ways away. This is one of my 555s that I've currently got built right now. I think that it's really hard to fade Chris Middleton or Bledsoe, but I think that because of all these other guard options that I'm about to go through, Trae Young, great play. Luka Doncic, great play at lower than it should be. Same thing with Lillard, terrific. All these guys. Darren Fox, really like him in what I think is going to be an up-pace matchup. And again, I like them to cover, so I think it's going to be a close game. You could try and play a Fox-Doncic lineup. I sort of like bringing the runbacks, you know what I mean? I like Jamal Murray today a little bit, but it's hard to play him over Bledsoe. I like Kyle Lowry. I like Spencer Dinwiddie a bit, but I'm not really playing those guys. I think Ja is going to rate well. I love Ja's upside, but I like him as a tournament guy, not as a guy who's going to be high owned when I can just go down to Brogdon, who I love the matchup for against this former team. And, they're down Giannis, and Brogdon is 6,200. I love the price, so I can play Brogdon with Bledsoe, which is what I'm doing in my other 500 right now. Rubio, Rozier, Sexton, especially Sexton and Rozier appeal to me. Now, I think Rubio breaks out sooner or later, but I'd rather get that edge on DraftKings where I don't need to use up, I'm going to use one of my guard spots, but here I only get 2 point guards. I play 4 over there, sort of, because you got some shooting guard / point guards that I like Garland or Sexton, I should say. Sexton, I love at 5,800. I think there's upside here for basically all of those guys, and I don't really think you need to get any more creative than that. So, but there is, it's deciding between them. That's tricky. I'm leaning much more, playing more than half my lineups will have Bledsoe. More than half my or about 80% of my lineups, maybe 90% will have Middleton over here, maybe even higher. And then I'm going to have to rotate with Bledsoe these Luka, Lillard, Trae Young, Cleveland guys situation. And that means I basically have to pass on a great matchup for Elf Payton, a good matchup for Kyle Lowry, and then I'm also going to play some Brogdon. So I have to cut out a lot of good plays tonight, and that's what you're going to find out you have to do at the guard spot. So great question that I sort of elaborated too far on, but yes, point guard, small forward eligibility makes a huge difference on FanDuel. On DraftKings. All the players are you're going to have a guard in basically almost all of my utility spots tonight, I believe. There might be a situation with double centers or something like that, but it's going to be so many guards that I like because there's just too many good ones. Assuming Love out and Nance starting, I feel like Porter might fill up with second unit. I think that's a good call. We talked about that a little bit. I do think Nance also is an interesting play. Opinion on run back when you're doing a single entry. How much does that swing your decision between a 2v2 run back at somewhat similar prices? It depends on the slate and how different I have the run backs projected. But I'm willing to sacrifice a few points, per game, basically, if the guy's a 2 or 3 point different projection. I'm willing to sacrifice that in the name of game environment and running back. I do believe in running back, but I don't think you always need to do it. I think in slates like this, you can just try and make the best plays. But overall, if you get that extra, the 5% of the time you get the overtime game, or you get the back and forth from the stars down the stretch, you sort of like the run back for those reasons. Huge sharp action on the Nets, which QLTV pointed out. Sheets has popped in the chat. When you say huge action, I presume that means bigger size bets. I'm going to defer to the QLTV people because I don't have all the answers on that specific one yet. I'm actually curious what those methods are. You know what? I know some of that stuff, Sheets, and I think they're good questions, but I don't think that I can answer all of that at this very second. Hey, Sheets, welcome. Thanks for jumping into chat. Guys, get some DFS or straight sports betting thoughts related. Let's talk about it. Another thing that, I'm just still sort of blown away by how many people are on the Bucks Pacers over. And I get it. You know what I mean? We look at some recent trends from, some Pacer games or whatever. And, they've played against some teams that are a little slower than this Bucks team is. And you could say the Bucks, look, they're a great defensive team, but they play fast, so they give up some points. And that's just the way it is. They also are not the same defensive team without Giannis, so it changes things a little bit. And you can see, since Oladipo's come back, it's been a struggle for him, obviously. I still love him in tournaments tonight. But their games have been fairly high scoring. That one game against Toronto, they had a really bad quarter that sort of killed them against Toronto the second time around. But, look, they're not the highest scoring team. I'm not going to try and make that sales pitch. But when you play Milwaukee, who plays fast, especially when they don't have guys like George Hill, you're going to play at a pretty good pace here. And I'm just going to keep playing Oladipo, and I'm going to bet also that game goes over the on the over under at 222.5. Anyway, guys, get some more thoughts, some more questions in. We want to keep talking about this DFS slate. One thing I like to do usually on my shows is I'll break down some lineups and sort of show some pivots. So like this lineup here is just a mock for my initial stuff. I'm still waiting on a lot of information, to be honest with you. Sort of feel like I'm in a holding pattern. But you can see what I'm doing, taking advantage of DeAndre Ayton being out, playing Diallo at 5K, hoping he gets slightly less ownership over here. I just as much want to go to Luka, but I can also play Luka over on FanDuel where he's cheaper. I just think it's weird that no one's playing him. And I think it's weird that no one's playing the Lakers for once in what's going to be a close game. If there was a time for LeBron to have a big game, this would be a good spot for it. I also think Jimmy Butler is like a way off the board play. I mentioned it earlier on one of the shows that I was on. If you look at Utah's game log, and I want to point this out, Utah is not the same defensive team that they were, especially not when Mike Conley plays. Since Mike Conley's come back, they have not only been pedestrian, they've been extremely poor defensively. And I want to point out that from a DFS perspective, someone has been on the winning lineup from Utah's opponent every single slate they've been on for the last, I think, 7 slates, and multiple guys many times. Last slate, it was the Tim Hardaway Jr. The slate before that, it was both Westbrook and Harden. The slate before that, it was Damian Lillard scoring 70. Then it was Jokic scoring 70. Then it was Lillard scoring 80. Then it was Jokic scoring 80. And then before that, I think we had a giant LMA game, but I'm not sure who it was for San Antonio. It was somebody big. Look at these points they're giving up. Okay? 126, 127. The Denver's the only team that seems to go slow with them. 124, 114, 113, 119. Yeah, these are higher scoring teams they're playing, but this has not been the same defensive stalwart that we've gotten used to. And in that, they've had a player on the other side, usually the star, certainly the guy taking the most shots has been the one. So in that case, why don't we think about a little bit of Jimmy Butler at 0 ownership at 8K today? Certainly should be on the radar for some people, just having known that. And what happens in the NBA is people see matchups and they see it all wrong. They basically think, okay, well, that's a tough matchup defensively. It's the exact opposite as that. The tougher the matchup, the more likely the guy is to thrive. Your superstar is. Utah does this every year. I mean, Giannis puts up 90 against Utah every time. When you're a good defense, your best player is going to have to take over. So you don't just want to pick on the Atlantas. You want to do that with the more pedestrian players. With the superstars, I want to pick on the Utahs. I'll pick on the Miamis if I have to. Whatever it is, I want my guys, and I'll take LeBron, especially on FanDuel, on slates like this, because against Denver, he's going to have to play well. He or Davis is going to have to put up 55 to 65, I think, for them to be in this game. I really do. It's a tough matchup for them on the road. This is when you're going to see the better games out of those guys. So just keep that in mind when you're building your DFS lineups. A little free lesson there from me to you guys. Anyway, I'm not really pivoting off this yet. I don't want to really get committed to too many builds because we're getting more information available. So Jonah Bolden has been expected to make his Suns debut on Wednesday. Now, I'm going to have to wait to see how the projections update that, but that could actually be pretty relevant because if Jonah Bolden even plays like 8 of those minutes that we're allocating to Diallo, it's going to change to where we can at least talk about fading him. Now, probably we're not going to, but we can talk about it. It's really going to depend on who's starting, how that game works out. And again, they don't really need to go all that big, which has me a little bit worried. But at 3,700 on FanDuel, it's hard to resist him. And at 5K on DraftKings, I still like him. But I think maybe he just got a tiny bit of a downtick from me, which actually makes me feel good because I'm looking for any reason I can to pivot off of the chalk, being a mostly GPP player myself. Anyway, again, going to ask you guys, please get some questions in the chat. Please get some thoughts out there. And it looks like I've got a few things to catch up on sheets. Pro Edge, let's see. This is a really good explanation here. Calculated by the total money wagered on specific bets. There you go. That's a very good answer. Nets are 3.5%. Therefore, they're 3.1. There it is. So that's really helpful. Sheets, that's good. You know, a lot of people we might get are maybe not as savvy and haven't used all the RotoQL products as the, you know, we're going to have people coming in from places that I've worked before, from people I've been talking to forever and been in this industry for a long time. So some people may not be as sharp as some of you guys are out there from a sports betting perspective, just right off the bat. Check out the Pistons and Magic free information down there. I really love that under. I think that's like one of the unders I've been the most a fan of. But the problem is it's so low, it has me like just a little bit nervous. But again, I just think if you're betting on it, you're going to take the under. I really do wish I would have publicized this to these guys because often we get too many questions to even follow what I was trying to talk about. But today we're really not doing it very much. I want to point out a few other plays that I like from a DFS perspective on FanDuel. I love Devontae Graham's upside tonight, and we don't usually get him at 6,800 at low ownership, even though it's a big slate. So I sort of like him as a pairing for Middleton, just talking a little position by position. You got him putting out, he's put up 47 and 46 in his last two games, or 47 and 40, however you want to call it. The usage is there. The matchup is supreme. Minnesota, we have to try and pick on them. We have to like some Charlotte players, guys. I really like Miles Bridges on FanDuel, who I have in my other big build right now. I wanted to get some Oubre exposure. I have that with Diallo. We'll see if I end up sticking with 100% Diallo, but I wanted also PJ Washington exposure, who's a much better play on DraftKings, but he's not going to be played that much, guys, and I think that this is a great spot to take advantage of his recent struggles coming back from injury. I think we're going to get back to the PJ Washington days where we were loving life with him at this price. And he was actually trending and more in the right direction. He's a guy who can go out there and get 40 for you. He's a young guy, got a lot of talent. They've got rid of Marvin Williams. Should open up more and more minutes for him. Played 35 in the last game, even though he didn't play well. Still put up 26 fantasy points. Let's play some PJ Washington tonight, guys. It's especially on DK, but on FanDuel as well. And just to reiterate, RotoQL has PJ Washington as the second best value play currently on DraftKings, and I would tend to agree with that. I don't know that I agree with the first, but I do agree with the second. So I can 100% say he is completely one guy I'm into. Anyway, guys, let's keep going, and we're going to talk a little bit more FanDuel. We've got Brook Lopez. This is an off-the-board play. Center sucks on FanDuel. It's Karl Anthony Towns for me. Jokic at the same price at 1/10 the ownership for some reason. Yeah, don't ask me why, but Towns is going to smash. So is Jokic probably even. He has struggled with the Lakers. I'll give him that, but there's no Will Barton there. I expect one of Jamal Murray or Jokic to get it going tonight. Rudy Gobert stands out at 7,800. Just really solid. Feels like he's not going to be below 35 or 40 much. Not a good matchup, obviously. We've got, I get the Vooch argument. I'm just not going to do it. I even kind of like Miles Turner. He won me a bunch of money. He's had some great slates and some great past performances against this Milwaukee team. And, some not so great ones, but he's had some great ones in there. It's really hard to figure out a pay down guy. Like, I don't want to play Zeller, but the minutes might be there against Cat. And against Cat, you can usually get some things done because he tries to block shots. He'll leave the offensive boards alone. He ends up making a lot of silly lapses that you can take advantage of. But there's really nobody worth paying down for in a very, 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 very long shot tournament, like the $7 here where you're playing, against 70,000 people. I would consider playing Bobby Portis. That's a crazy play. Don't do it in a regular tournament. Just do it if you're playing a bunch of lineups and you're playing some really, really, really long shot tournament. He's an interesting way to go. Andre Drummond, I think I would rather just play Cat or Jokic, but I do like Drummond, especially on DraftKings where he's 9,400. Makes a lot more sense to me over there. And then just continuing the position talk, there are plenty of other plays I really like. Where I don't like Sabonis, he's 1,700 cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DK. I like this matchup for him a ton. I think that he's going to have a really big game. In my other lineup, which we'll get to in just a second, I mean, first of all, you can see he's been pretty solid. I don't think the Oladipo being back really affects him that much. He's still got a massive upside in every game that he plays. And at 8,100, I think he's safe. But I want to just real quickly go to my other lineup that I built as a sort of a shell. We've got, sorry about this, taking a minute to load. We've got basically a complete Indiana-Milwaukee stack. It's an interesting, which supports what BetQL was saying about the game. I think you get your money on the over in this game. I really agree with that call. I think it would be higher if Giannis was there, and I think it should be higher. I think this game ends up in the 230 range, and it's 222 and a half right now. I love Oladipo, as I mentioned. You're going to get no ownership on him on FanDuel. I love Malcolm Brogdon, as I mentioned, and I love Sabonis. I don't think I'll end up playing all three together with Bledsoe and Middleton, but I'm certainly considering it. And then instead of Wiggins here, I can just plug in Oubre, because I'm not a big Wiggins guy in general. He just sort of fit when I didn't really love doing that. I don't really love the small forward spot on FanDuel as much. I'm fine with Siakam. I'm fine with LeBron. It's just not that exciting to me. And then Oubre is the chalky one who I'll have some interest in. Same with Wiggins. Just like I expect him to get enough shots up in this game, to where he's going to get to near 40 enough. And I just didn't like anybody else that much. So I'm just sort of taking one shot on a lower-owned Wiggins against Oubre. But don't love it. I'm not feeling excited about it. Might end up changing it, obviously. You can see that, I've got the Towns-Bridges connection a little bit. Then I've got the five-man stack and then just a Wiggins on his own. Actually, no, I guess everybody correlates here. Every play correlates technically. So that's kind of a nice little side bonus. That's not totally a bonus, but it does work. You've got the Wiggins and Diallo. Not that's, but you've got the Towns and Bridges. There's a lot that, I'm playing. Let's say game's going to overtime about 5% of the time. If there's close spreads, about 8% of the time. If you get that overtime game tonight, you're going to want multiple people in it. And these close spread games that are going to be high paced, I mean, I'm not sure where I stand on Minnesota. I think they could destroy Charlotte, but I also think very likely that Charlotte guys could get there in there. They're going to play their minutes anyway because they're young. They're going to play 30 minutes. I think Miles Bridges is a phenomenal play. Again, going to just be way lower owned than he should be. Safe with upside is a good way to describe him. You can see, 4 out of the last 6, he's been over 34. 2 of those over 40. The lowest score he's had in his last 6 was 24.6. I'm feeling very good about him tonight. And again, no Marvin Williams, a guy who can get some steals and blocks against a sloppy team, against a team that doesn't play defense. This is a really, really good spot to target right here with all of Charlotte, basically. And going back to Rozier at 5,800 or Graham at 6,800 or Bridges or Washington. Those 4 guys, my guess is at least 1, maybe 2 go completely ham tonight. So we'll see. Sheets doesn't know I spoke about Rubio, but 8 now is sneaky good for him and sneaky bad for Booker, as Booker runs a lot of PNR with 8. And I don't agree that it's bad for Booker. I think it's really, really wrong. Booker's usage is better. The games Ayton was out, he was a better fantasy player. I understand the pick and roll part of it, but I want Booker for scoring 40 real life points, not so much to get 10 assists, although I love that too, but that's not what I'm betting on him for. The QL view, let's see what the RotoQL view is of Rubio specifically. I think we like him. The issue, Rubio right now would rate to be basically the 6th best point per dollar play on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's different, so I don't think you need to play him on FanDuel. That's just my take. I think there's too many other point guards with upside over on FanDuel. That why attack that Rubio game over there where you can get him on DraftKings, and he's only taking up one of your 4 guard spots rather than one of your 2 point guard spots. Well, and most guys over there, you have a lot of point guard / shooting guard eligible players. It's a very, very big difference between the sites. Really important. I really like Booker too, by the way. I think I talked about him a little bit, but I do think that he's actually benefited without 8, and I don't think it's bad for him. I also I just, the only problem is I worry about this game getting sloppy and out of control a little bit too. I can't let it run my life, but I do have some concerns about those games. And what's going to happen is we're going to get some information later today. So I'm going to encourage you guys right now. I'm BobbyFi on Twitter, at BobbyFi, BOBBYFI. For those of you who don't know me, which I think is probably very few of you, but please follow me on Twitter. Please feel free to ask publicly. Please don't DM me. But ask publicly questions, because I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have, like leading up to lock. How does this affect that? I just can't do it on a one-on-one basis because I get too many requests. So she still loves Booker, at least. But it's a good question. I do agree that it could be good with Rubio, but I just don't know that on FanDuel it makes enough sense. I do think he does make a lot of sense on DraftKings, though, because again, I like Oladipo a little bit better on DraftKings than I do on FanDuel, obviously, because I like the shooting guard spot too. I love Lillard but again, I'm playing Lillard over here because there's too many point guards over there. Look at all the guards I've got. I'm gonna change this, but let's say I wanted to run a Rubio lineup out there. It would be really nice to run back with somebody from that Golden State side, and I just cannot find anybody I'm willing to take that shot on, except for a little bit of Wiggins on FanDuel, I guess. The James Johnson / Cam Johnson is pretty speculative at best. I do think Cam Johnson has some upside here, though, and I could see that him playing sort of in any sort of environment in this game, getting 24, 25 minutes. He's a shooter, good situation for him, but probably not really going to end up with him. Sort of hoping to build out my lineup a little differently as we get some more information. I wouldn't mind going ahead and doing this, but I've already got Oladipo, not running it back with anybody from Milwaukee in this particular lineup, so I don't love that. The prices for Milwaukee is the main thing that's dictating things on DraftKings. If there's a big part of me that just sort of wants to say, you know what, F it. I want to play my guys. I don't need your permission. I'm just gonna lock them in. I'm gonna play the Milwaukee guys. Forget the pricing. I think I'm gonna have to do that at least with some of my 88 lineups. Plan today would be probably to play 10 of the $88 buy-ins or whatever it is, and then 50 of the other ones, like I said. And then those $15 ones, those are some of the other plays I mentioned that I like. I want to focus a little bit more on sports betting for a minute because we haven't talked about some of our other things that we've noticed today. And with at the risk of sending anyone, I do think that we don't focus on, we're not focusing on half spreads and half money lines and things like that very much. I think that's something we're going to get into a little bit more after the All-Star break. It's something that I just haven't spent enough time on to talk as elegantly as I feel like y'all deserve, I guess is the best way to put it. I do think this is interesting because, you've got the sharp money on the Heat, where we also have the Jazz rating very well. The Jazz we have the Jazz rating well as a team that should be favored by even more than they are, basically. Not necessarily favored by more, but they should win more often than we have them winning, than Vegas has them winning. I agree with that. I think the Jazz usually win this game. It's one of the hardest places to go on the road and play, which again makes me like Jimmy Butler even more. Again, I just think you're going to get some upside there. It's worth noting. So anyway, keep that in mind. Sorry, I'm keeping an update for little. I have my apps that are going to tell me what's happening in the NBA and if anybody's out. So I'm trying to make sure you guys have the most up-to-date information. Let me know if you have any other questions about the slate specifically. Otherwise, I'm going to talk a little bit of NBA talk for just a bit. We need to talk about one other big game that I think maybe people are missing out on. I'm sort of tempted to go just, you know what? Every time Washington's going to play, just bet the over and live with the results. I might be on that page again tonight. I think that's another over/under that's interesting. I think I would lean towards betting the over for sure, and I think that it's I don't have the numbers right in front of me, and I could probably look it up and find out, but I do think that it's really just worth noting that is a really good way to play a lot. Like, you just treat the Washington games like they're going to go absolutely out of control, both for DFS purposes and for regular purposes. I mean, I know they hike up the spreads, but to me, it almost never feels like enough for the Wizards, for these new look Timberwolves, who I think are going to play much faster than that game's anticipating. I really do. That's another overrun I really like, and that's one. We like the Hornets to stay close on BetQL. Now, we can also use that two ways. I like them to also stay close in this game. I still like the Timberwolves to win, but I think that the Hornets can definitely hang around. It's kind of strange to see the Hornets as the Timberwolves as an 8.5 point favorite, but I do think they've made some serious improvements. I really hope Charlotte stays in this game, and I'm agreeing with our site. And based on what our site is saying, it's also making me just reaffirming that I love that game for DFS, especially the Charlotte side. That's where we're leaning, and that's what we should be doing. We've got this 4-star rating right now on BetQL, so that's really, really, really good. We only have 3 4-star rating plays today, and that's one of them in terms of who to pick. And that's the one that I definitely agree with the most. That's where I'm at right now. Let's take a look, see if anything else is updated. I don't think we've got anything new. Again, if you haven't met yet, hi, I'm BobbyFi. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Thanks so much. Please give us the thumbs up. It means a lot to us. We're going to be running these shows, and again, we want you to help dictate what we're going to be talking about, to give us the questions, help drive where we're going. Usually our shows have 2 people. We're going back and forth, and we're doing it that way. I want to have a more interactive show with you guys, in addition to those other shows that we'll have too. We'll have that coming up for you after the All-Star break. But right now, let's talk about some more, I guess we'll talk about some more NBA betting, because I want to mention the odds are a little bit strange. Okay, so I don't think that there's any real chance that every time I think about a team in the NBA winning the title this year, I keep going, well, that team doesn't really have a chance. I don't really see them as a title team until you get to like the Lakers, Clippers, and Bucks, obviously. But they're prohibitive favorites. But doesn't this feel like a year that sort of someone could sneak in? And the weird part is, like, Denver's winning all these games, and it's not that I love Denver to win the title by any means, or Philly. But in a 4 out of 7, I could see Denver being tough, especially once they're healthy, which they haven't been all year. And then you factor in that they're 30-1 to win the title. That seems like a little bit too much. They have a chance to win the West, and they're 30-1 to win the title. And also, I think, what do you got? 25-1 on Toronto. Sneaky back-to-back. Like, look, I don't think these teams are going to win it, but do I think if they played the rest of the season out 30 and 25 more times, they would win it once? I do think each of those teams would. That's my take. That makes it an interesting bet. You're getting a pretty good price on it, and that's really rare for the long-term NBA season bets, and I just want to throw that one out there. I think it's a pretty good one. Anyway, guys, we're going to jump back to some DFS stuff for a minute. I'm just taking a look now. I've got to get some lineups in. I've got a script that I'm running, and I just want to read off some percentages of some certain players that I own. Maybe it'll help you guys with your lineups tonight, but sort of where I'm sort of targeting my ownerships. I'm going to update it and then read them off to you. Again, sorry for the boring background stuff. We'll get some better stuff for you guys in the meantime. I can't give away all the stuff for free on the BetQL, RotoQL sites. I'm sure we'll have premium shows where we do that. But for right now, I can't drive you through the site because I don't want to give away what is really information that is worth paying a lot of money for. And I would suggest you guys sign up right away using the code BobbyFi for 30% off your first month. Anyway, let's see. Taking a quick look at my ownerships, and excuse me. That's my FanDuel ownerships. This is my DraftKings ownerships. And as of right now, Oladipo and PJ Williams are my highest owned players on DraftKings. We'll see if that sticks. I really like both of them. I think Oladipo is just getting overlooked, and that's, there's no excuse for it in my opinion. I also, the other guy I have the most of it is Diallo, not because I love him so much, but because when you're starved for value, like not even starved for value, but like you have a guy who's projecting to go like 7x over here just because he's going to, 10x on FanDuel or projected to. I still want a good portion of him. I'll just mention this. In all of my 15s and $88 tournaments, I will be well below the field on him. And I'm going to be, I originally was going to be below the field on what was going to be a really chalky James Johnson. I think it's sort of going to phase out by the end of the day, and it's starting to as well. I don't think we're going to have James Johnson as the ownership we thought. I did like Deadman, and we had him low projected early in the day, and now we've got him pretty highly projected, unfortunately. So I like him a little bit less because I don't want to be with the field. My guys, though, Oladipo, PJ Washington, and Diallo would be my 3 highest owned players starting tonight. Then I've got a whole mishmash of a bunch of guys, and it gets real confusing real quick. I got a lot of 30%ers to go with my 60%ers that I mentioned. Damian Lillard, De'Aaron Fox, Bradley Beal, Trae Young, Devin Booker, Eric Bledsoe, Andre Drummond, Terry Rozier, Julius Randle, Luka Doncic, Jimmy Butler. These are the 25%ish guys now. Malik Monk, Chris Middleton, Colin Sexton, Malik Beasley, Double Malik it up tonight, maybe. Last night I said the way to go was double White it up with Kobe White and Derek White. Should listen to myself because that was pretty much the nuts you could go with at the price ranges. Miles Bridges, Malcolm Brogdon, Christian Wood. I do think Christian Wood is a guy I'm starting to get a little bit heavier on just because I think that he's going to get 50 enough of the time here. He's going to get 40 a lot of the time, so I'm going to be higher on him. Jamal Murray at no ownership. Bogdan Bogdanovic at no ownership in a really good matchup. Maybe you play him on the other side with Luka instead of De'Aaron Fox. Like, there's a lot of good plays, and again, we're going to wait on information because there's going to be things that happen that are going to completely change everything. Anyway, that's where we're at. Again, follow me at BobbyFi. Ask me questions later in the day. We're going to be wrapping up in just a little bit, but we want to talk a little bit more sports betting before we do. I want to familiarize myself more with our best bets in NHL, and I'm sure they do very well. I don't know NHL well enough to where I'm going to be taking all of you guys through that at this moment, but I do think I can take you through at least our bets and our reasonings why, starting in maybe a couple weeks or something like that. It's not my expertise at the moment, but I think I could certainly relay what we think, at least in the best way I possibly can. Some other interesting line movements today that I wanted to mention. The Timberwolves are becoming more and more of a favorite, and it's interesting because that's making me like the Hornets just more and more. I really like the Hornets to cover in that game. The Magic have become less of a favorite, which is kind of weird to me. I do see this game as being a potential blowout as well. I like the Magic to handle this game pretty easily, even though it's weird. I like Wood. I don't think it matters. I'm not talking about a 20-point blowout, but I think they win this game by double digits in the end and pretty much control it from the outset. I think the Pistons have trouble scoring. I think everybody but Christian Wood has a rough day. Hawks, Cavs. We're only talking about line movements of one, but the Hawks, the Cavs opened at +1. Now they're at +2. Again, I sort of like the Hawks there. So nothing really too crazy major in any direction, but it's just worth noting. There's been a little bit of movement on that Timberwolves game. Sometimes that stuff, if it has too big of one, it usually tends to make me think that somebody's that somebody sort of got some information that I don't have, but none of this is drastic enough to where I feel like it's worthy of even talking about that. And it was interesting with that Bucks situation because the spread was almost like they knew Giannis wasn't going to play at 10, and it was still a 10-point spread. And for good reason. Anyway, at people DFS in the poker world, people who want to bet on other people, you can go and do it here. It's kind of fun. I am on there as well, and you can see my account has negative money, which is actually a good thing because it means I won money last night and I haven't paid it to my account yet, which is great because, we're going to pay it when we win 100K, not when we win, 5K or whatever. But we did have a good night last night. The BetQL, RotoQL team has so far been, it's a work in progress, but so far I think we're off to a good start. I think we can do better going forward, and we will need to hear from you guys, who you guys like in general. Do I like Booker at 700 more than Fox and Bledsoe? From a tournament perspective, yes. From a regular perspective, I think it's really close, to be honest with you, between Booker, Fox, and Bledsoe. I do like Bledsoe on DK a little more. Obviously, it's easier to stomach, but than the Milton price. And I still think you want to try and get one of those guys in. So I appreciate that question, and I think it's a good question because I think all three of those guys I have rated in a very similar range. But I do have a little more interest in Booker because I think we're going to see that big game from Booker tonight. I think it's very possible to see that big game from Booker, I should say, tonight. But as I think about it more, maybe you can make the argument for Fox too the same way. So it certainly could go either way. All three of those are strong plays. Unfortunately, I have them rated in a very similar range, but they'll all be making a lot of appearances in my lineups. I can't promise which or if any of them will be in my main build by the end. As of right now, it's Booker, and it's just trying to take advantage of that situation. But I don't like having three Suns and not running it back. So I'm not going to leave this like this. It's just. It's going to be a reminder of something that I want to do. And if you aren't subscribing, subscribe. You can also follow me at Bobby Firestone, my YouTube channel. But mostly, I want to tell my YouTube channel to watch me over here because this is where we're going to be doing our daily shows. So next time we'll have more people in here. It'll be more fun. We'll get some back and forth. And one thing I can promise you is the people around us, while it might be a smaller group than some of the other major sites that they have out there, our chat groups, our people who follow us, ask them how they're doing because we've made a lot of people a lot of money with our videos, our free videos, and then we're going to keep doing the same thing here. The only difference is we're going to make you money sports betting, and we're going to make you money at DFS, and we're going to make you money by learning how to follow RotoQL, how to basically take full advantage of your membership and answer any questions or get to anything that we absolutely can. If you have any questions or thoughts about any of that stuff, please ask in chat, and we can get the QL guys to help us out and answer some of those questions because there are a lot of questions a lot of things that can be confusing to newer sports bettors. And if any of you guys fit that billing, certainly happy to answer any questions we can because we are here to help you win. And so anyway, been a great start for me for the RotoQL, BetQL team. It's unfortunately a small following that we've got now, but it's a small but wonderful following. And when we get my group in and we end up taking over the industry in a little bit, you guys will have been there at the start. And in the meantime, hey, you're getting premium advice with only like 10 other people or 20 other people at a time. Maybe a couple hundred people watch this video by the end of the day. But as of right now, this is an incredible opportunity for you. And I'm not saying that just as a bragging thing. The fact is we're good at what we do. I'm good at what I do. BetQL and RotoQL are very good at what they do. We are going to make you money in the long run, if you translate our information, if you take what we're telling you right, and we're trying to help you make money. You're seeing exactly what I'm doing. These are my actual builds for my actual lineups tonight. I did the same thing yesterday, and I ended up winning. I finished fourth in a tournament. Look, that happens today, and I win six figures with one of these lineups that I put out here. Sure, don't you feel good that you're on like that side? You can basically copy most of that lineup, or at least come and bug me on Twitter or bug me in our chat about why am I doing these things? Why am I playing the way that I'm playing? What is it about me that's doing it? What makes me such a lunatic to why I would play Darius Garland when there's so many loaded point guards? I'm happy to answer all those things. Some of them I'm a contrarian by nature. I'm a tournament player. I understand what the cash game plays are. I know who they are. I just don't like playing cash games. I want to win 10 times on my money, not double up. You know what I mean? And somebody gets injured in the NBA, you're still going to have some lineups with a chance because I don't usually lock players in very much. Whereas if you do it in a head-to-head, you could end up losing 4 times what you would have lost in tournaments if you play head-to-heads and double-ups and all that stuff. And I just don't think that's the right way to play for me. I'm a contrarian by nature, so that's the way I go. Everybody else, as you build up bankroll doing that, I've made good money doing it, but I haven't made the same money that I have from tournaments, and that's why I focus on these. These are my line. I'm just scrolling through to give you guys an idea of who I'm liking over here. I think that it's a really good slate, and I'm hoping that we get minimal news, but I do hope we get a little more value because I sort of like just airing it out. These guys who get, must-win games sort of report, not really, but like sort of feels like a must-win before the break, need to go in with some momentum. You've got Bradley Beal, the all-star snub narrative, and he's in Madison Square Garden. Those are some interesting narratives to pay attention to. Things like that. That's sort of where you want to be, and I really think that like making those kind of plays tonight are going to be what could set you apart. Now, did I name a number of them? Sure. The guys who I'm locking into, Oladipo, PJ Washington, Cheik Diallo at the moment, my highest owned players. Not necessarily off the board, but not necessarily the mega chalk, except for Diallo. And I think certainly if you start your lineups out that way, you're in a good you're in basically a really good spot, and I have no problem doing it. I do think PJ Washington gets way lower ownership than he should. And I think sharp bettors bet Oladipo. I think the worst players don't bet Oladipo today. It's my personal guess, but we shall see. Anyway, guys, really appreciate you. We love you for tuning in. We got our own little community over here now, and it feels good. I really like the people we have, and I've been nothing but thrilled to be a part of the BetQL RotoQL team. Again, any questions about the actual games? You want to see game-by-game stuff next time? You want to see us doing it a different way? You want to see actual projection breakdowns? Let us know what you want, and we're here to help you out. In the meantime, I'm going to end this stream soon, but I'm going to leave it open in case you want to get in chat. But really appreciate everything, guys. And again, can't thank BetQL, RotoQL for the opportunity enough. It's just been a great experience so far, and I'm looking forward to when we have 100 times these viewers. And I know it's coming. It may take 6 months or a year, but I know it's going to be there. And we're glad you guys are here at the beginning. And in the meantime, let's make all the money that those guys aren't making then by being a little bit smarter and using some different projection tools than what a lot of the industry is. Use BetQL, use RotoQL, use BobbyFi, And let's make some money, guys. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Take it easy.